What if I told you one of the deadliest disasters in human history began with a normal night shift? And what if the people standing closest to the explosion didn't even know they were already dying? It was April 26, 1986. Inside the Chernobyl disaster nuclear power plant, everything looked normal. Workers moved through the control room. Machines hummed quietly. What if I told you one of the deadliest disasters in human history began with a normal night shift? And what if the people standing closest to the explosion didn't even know they were already dying? It was April 26, 1986. Inside the Chernobyl disaster nuclear power plant, everything looked normal. Workers moved through the control room. Machines hummed quietly in the background. Outside, the nearby city of Pripyat slept peacefully. Children were asleep in their beds. Families were preparing for another ordinary morning. But in just a few minutes, history would change forever. That night, engineers at reactor number 4 were preparing for a safety test. The goal sounded simple. They wanted to know if the reactor could still provide emergency power during a blackout. But there was a problem. The reactor was already unstable. And instead of stopping the test, they continued. One mistake led to another. Power levels dropped too low. Operators tried to fix it quickly. Safety systems were disabled. And then, at 1:23 a.m., everything went wrong. A sudden surge of power exploded inside the reactor. The first explosion shook the building. Seconds later, a second explosion tore through the reactor itself. The roof was blown apart. Pieces of radioactive graphite were thrown into the night sky. And then something terrifying happened. A strange blue light appeared above the reactor. Beautiful, silent, deadly. But nobody fully understood what they were looking at. At first, many workers believed it was just a normal fire. Even firefighters arriving at the scene had no idea the air around them was filled with massive amounts of radiation. So they walked directly toward the reactor, without proper protection, without realizing their bodies were already being destroyed. Some firefighters later described a strange metallic taste in their mouths. Others felt dizzy within minutes. Their skin began turning red. Some started vomiting. But still, they kept fighting the fire, because they believed they were saving people. And in many ways, they were. If you enjoy real historical stories like this, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel for more cinematic documentaries and hidden truths. Meanwhile, just a few kilometers away, life in Pripyat continued almost normally. People woke up the next morning. Children played outside. Families walked through the streets. Many residents even stood outside watching the glowing reactor from a distance, without knowing invisible radiation was falling around them like dust. And that invisible danger would soon spread across Europe. Inside the plant, conditions became horrifying. Radiation levels were so extreme that electronic devices stopped working correctly. Some workers entering certain areas received fatal doses of radiation in only minutes. But Soviet authorities were slow to admit the truth. For hours, many people still had no idea how dangerous the disaster really was. Then came the evacuation. Buses arrived in Pripyat nearly 36 hours after the explosion. Residents were told they would leave temporarily, just for a few days. So many people left their homes without packing much. Some didn't even lock their doors. But most of them would never return again. The city was abandoned, frozen, but most of them would never return again. The city was abandoned, frozen in time. Even today, inside abandoned apartments, schools, and hospitals, toys still lie on the floor. Photos still hang on walls, as if life suddenly stopped in the middle of a normal day. The disaster didn't end with the explosion. Thousands of people were exposed to radiation. Many workers and firefighters died painful deaths within weeks. Others suffered illnesses years later, and the effects of Chernobyl would continue for generations. Even now, large parts of the exclusion zone remain unsafe. Nature has returned, buildings are collapsing, and silence fills the empty streets. But perhaps the most terrifying part of the Chernobyl disaster is how invisible it was. No monster, no warning siren, no giant wave, just radiation. Something humans cannot see, cannot smell, and often cannot escape. Chernobyl was not only a nuclear accident. It was a moment that showed how one night, one experiment, and a few terrible decisions could change countless lives forever. And maybe that's why the world still remembers it today. Because behind the reactor, behind the politics, behind the disaster itself, were ordinary people who never imagined their normal night would become history. So now I want to ask you, do you think humanity has truly learned from disasters like Chernobyl? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And for more real stories from history, science, and forgotten tragedies, make sure to subscribe to the channel.